Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm excited to show you how to crochet the beautiful Amethyst shawl. It's a crescent type shawl that goes from skinny at the beginning to wide at the end to give you a lot of unique kind of styling options. The one that I am holding was made with some yarn from a recent Temu haul. If you're curious about the yarn and you want to try it for your shawl, I'll link to my full review in the description below. It's a fun yarn and you can see how well I liked working with it, and grab some if you like the look of it. For this shawl, you'll need about 475 yards of a worsted weight yarn. A self-striping yarn gives an effortless and beautiful color transition, but if you prefer a more sophisticated look, a solid color works beautifully too. In the pattern, I also give you another option for the yarn, which is what I originally made that pattern with. This used to be a paid pattern, but now it is one of my forever free patterns, so it will be free forever, so you can always go and bookmark this and come back to it later. So we'll be using a 6mm hook, and I'm going to walk you through the first 7 rows, including the 4-row easy repeat that you'll use for the rest of the shawl. Once you've got that down, you'll be able to work the project without having to keep checking the pattern. Before we get started though, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button and turn on the notifications so you don't miss any future free patterns. And if you find this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and share it with your crochet loving friends. Now grab your pattern, yarn, and hook, and let's get started. Okay, so we are going to start off our project with a slip knot. We're starting at the skinny end of the shawl, and it's going to just build out through pretty much a 4-row repeat, but we're going to do a couple setup rows first. So after you get your slip knot, leave a good tail for weaving in. We're going to chain 4, just normal chaining. 3 of those are going to count as a double crochet. Next, we're going to double crochet in the very first chain we made, or the 4th from the hook. Again, those 3 count as a double crochet. We're going to double crochet 6 times into this chain. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook into the very first chain. You can go back loop or bottom bump, whichever you prefer. We're going to do our first double crochet, so yarn over, insert the hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through the first 2, yarn over, pull through the second 2. That's your full double crochet. So we've got 2, we're going to do 4 more. And now we have the end of row 1, which is a whole little fan that we're going to be working off of to make the entire thing. For row 2, we're going to turn and we're going to do a tall chain. So this is in place of a chain 3. A tall chain will help keep your edges looking the same as the rest of your stitches. If you notice that when you do like a chain 3 for the beginning of a round, and I'll just do one real quick, this yarn masks it a little bit, so if you'd rather do a chain 3, feel free, but if it's a thinner yarn or something that doesn't have as much poofiness that kind of sticks out and you want to hide that a little bit better, you want to do a tall chain. I'm going to double crochet in the next stitch because we're supposed to double crochet in the same stitch, but I'm going to do it the next stitch so you can see kind of the gap that appears with the chain 3. So normally you can kind of see that big gap right here. That is something that is not great looking on your finished project. So to avoid that, we're going to do a tall chain. So let's pull those out, go back to our original chain. So a tall chain is going to take the place of the chain 3. We're going to pull out our chain about as tall as a double crochet. Then we're going to lock that in with 1 more chain. And that is just going to be kind of a runner to get us up to the height so that we can do our first double crochet. But this time we're going to do it in the same stitch as where we made the tall chain. So we're going to yarn over, insert in that very first stitch, do our double crochet. Then we are going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. So 1 double crochet in each of the next 5. Okay, now we are at our very last stitch, which is kind of weird looking because it was our first chain 3, so it's pretty skinny. It kind of looks like you're at the end of your row, but you still have that 1 chain 3 that we are going to work into. So we're going to start increasing, and to do that, we're going to do 2 double crochets into that stitch. So we're going to do it in the top of the chain 3. We're going to do 1. And then we're going to go right back in, if I can get through the stitch, and do 1 more. So we've increased our row by 1, and we now have 8 stitches, and we're starting to increase going this way. So all of our increases are going to be on the same side of the project. So for row 3, we're going to turn, get some slack, lots of slack. And we're going to tall chain again, and we're going to keep increasing on this side. So we're going to do 2 double crochets in that very first stitch, which was the last stitch of the previous row. Next, we're going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches, which should leave us 2 left over because we had a total of 8. What we're going to do is we're always going to increase on this side. We're always going to decrease on the opposite side. So that will kind of keep you on track to remember which side is which. You can look at your first and last stitches of the rows and look for the increases or the decreases. So first we're going to double crochet in the next 5 stitches. And now we are on our last 2 stitches of the row, and we're going to double crochet 2 together because we're only technically increasing on every other row. Even though we did an increase over here, we're bringing our whole project to the right in this case on this side. By doing that, it's kind of creating a bias. If you've seen my bias lace scarf, or my just bias scarf, it's not lace, you'll see that we always increase on one side and we decrease on the other side, and it leans. So we're going to do the same thing by doing a double crochet 2 together. So if you've never done one, so we're going to yarn over, insert a hook into the next stitch, pull up 2 loops, we'll have 2 left on our hook, yarn over, put your hook in your next stitch, pull up a loop, pull through the first 2, 3 loops left on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 for that double crochet, double crochet 2 together, DC2TOG. Okay, now we're moving on to row 4, and row 4 is where we're going to start our lace. It's really just chains, so it's not difficult. One thing to note, you'll see in the pattern that it says that we're going to chain 2, but it counts as 1 stitch. And what that's going to do is it's going to make a bigger lace hole in the project. But when we come back and work, we're only working 1 stitch into that chain 2 space. So that way the count stays correct, but we have a wider, nicer big hole for the whole of the lace. Lots of holes. And one thing to note, this is going to be the beginning of our stitch repeat. So this, when we finish the next 4 rows, you're going to come back and repeat this. You're just going to use it in a wider pattern because you're adding more stitches as you go. So I'll keep counts out of this so that if you need to come back to reference it, you can. So we're going to start with a tall chain. Then we're going to double crochet in that first stitch. We're going to double crochet in the next stitch we come to. We're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Then we're going to skip 1 stitch because remember, even though we're chaining 2, we're counting it as one stitch. So we're just skipping one stitch. Then the repeat for the row begins. So when you see the star in the pattern, that means repeat everything in after that star until it tells you to stop. So we're going to double crochet after skipping that stitch, double crochet in the next stitch. We're going to chain 2 again. Get my tangles out. Skip the next stitch, double crochet in the stitch after. So the pattern repeats as to keep doing this until you reach your last stitch. Remember, we have this tall chain here, so your last stitch is going to look a little bulky, but that is better than a big, anemic stitch where there's a huge hole like this in it. So we're going to remember that we have one stitch left. This is our tall chain. We are doing 2 double crochets because remember, we are increasing on this side every single row. So we're going to do 2 double crochets in this last stitch. And then we are done with row 4. On row 8, you'll have a couple more holes because you're going to keep working as it states that repeat until you get to that last stitch. Okay, so row 5, or the second row of our repeat, this one is pretty easy. We're going to tall chain. Remember, we're increasing on this side, so we're going to do 2 double crochets in that first stitch. Now we're going to double crochet across till we get to our last 2 stitches. So this should be fairly easy to recognize each row because we're doing 2 double crochets at the beginning before we're starting our chains. So once you finish this chain stitch, you should be at the end. But remember, each of these chain 2 spaces, we're only doing 1 double crochet into them because these are being counted as 1 stitch. So we're going to double crochet in each stitch across, and you'll see the pattern says only 1 double crochet in the chain 2 space. So just go right around the entire thing, nice and easy, and then find your middle stitch and double crochet in there. And you'll see that you don't really get a gap. It just kind of pulls together, but you're getting the nice big holes for your lace. If you did just 1 chain, and you could, if you want the holes smaller, you could substitute for 1 chain each. It's just going to give you a narrower gap. So if you like the big open gap, use 2 chains. Or if you want to try, do 1 chain or maybe alternate and have big and little chains, whatever floats your boat. Or find your lost remote. Okay, now we're down here to our last 2 stitches. Remember, on this side of our project, I'm not going to say a right or wrong because crochet is right and wrong both sides. It's, unless you're doing cables, you can always reverse crochet. That's what I love about crochet. So last 2 stitches we're DC 2 together, double crochet 2 together. So on these rows where we have a just plain, across, we're always increasing on one end and decreasing on the other end. So we've done our DC 2 together, and you can see we're starting to get our crazy triangle. So we only have 2 more rows to go, and then we start our repeat of these rows. All right, now row 6. Guess what we're starting with? That's right, tall chain. And guess what we're doing after this? That's right, double crochet. So row 6, we're starting with our tall chain. Row 6 is a pretty easy one. We're going to double crochet in each stitch across to the very last stitch, and then we're going to do our increase. So nice and simple, easy to remember. I give this like a 4 out of 5 TV watching rating. Being able to do something else while you're doing this project, because you really only have to pay attention kind of at the beginning and end of the rows and pay attention to which row you're on, but they're pretty easy to count. They're big, they're, you know this one's gonna be an open one, and you'll have 3 closed ones. So it's pretty simple to tell which row you're on. They're very easy to read. So this is a fairly simple pattern. You just have to remember what you have to do kind of on this one, but it's it's easy, very easy. Here we are at our last stitch. Now remember, this is our increase side, so we have to double crochet 2 times in this stitch. So every other row we are increasing by 1. So you can keep track of your stitches that way. You can use a little counter, a little tally sheet, whatever, but the row where we don't have the DC2 together, we're increasing. The other rows where we have the DC2 and 1, and then, doing 2 and 1, you're increasing 1, but we're reducing 1 on the other end, and that's what's giving us our shape. So we're only increasing 1 stitch every other row. So keep that in mind if you're counting stitches. All right, last row for the repeat. So as normal, we're going to tall chain and we're going to DC 2 times in that first stitch to keep us going over here. Then this one is pretty simple too. We're going to double crochet all the way across to the last 2 stitches, because this is our decreasing, or our, not increasing row, because we're increasing and decreasing at the same time. So double crochet across. And here we are at our last 2 stitches, and my yarn is finally starting to change colors. I'm very curious to see how this is going to turn out. So I'm excited to see how long these color changes are and how either really cool this looks or how wackadoodle. But I love these little nubbies. They give it just kind of some interesting effect. So now we're going to do our double crochet 2 together to finish off the last row of our repeat. And there we go. We are ready to now repeat our row 4 and work our way up. I'll do one more row 4 repeat just so you can see how this works out in a larger stitch count. So let's do that again real quick. So we're going to tall chain. We're going to double crochet in the very first stitch and in the stitch after. Then we start our lace. So we're going to chain 2, skip 1 DC, DC in the next. Knee to yarn over. There. Chain 2, skip, DC in the next. Chain 2, skip a DC, DC in the next. And here we are at the end of our row, and we're ready to increase. So 2 double crochets in that stitch. So you will notice, if you have keen eyes, that our holes increase by 1. So as you go, you're gonna have 1 more lace hole every 4th row. So that can also keep you on track. But remember, when you're working back, only 1 DC in each of these chain 1s. That'll give you that nice wide hole. So keep on going. We'll meet up at the end so we can see how mine looks and how yours looks. And that's it for the Amethyst shawl. Once you've memorized that repeat, it's such a relaxing project to work on. I can't wait to see what your finished shawls look like. Be sure to tag me on social media so I can check them out. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and share this tutorial if you enjoyed it. I'm Deja with Knit and Crochet Ever After, and thank you for watching.